That's better. I've just got a few steps to follow here to get us live. Great, I think we might be live. I'm just going to check my phone to make sure that we are. Hello, everybody. If we are live, welcome. Not sure that we are yet. It says we're live, but it might be lying. Ah, here we go. Are we? Yes, we are. Okay, brilliant. So welcome to Tabatha Throup, who is our guest today. As you know, at Memory Matters, we try and bring you as much interesting stories as we possibly can. And this is one that I think will be close to a lot of people's hearts. Tabitha is the daughter of somebody living with dementia, and she created a book for children, and it's a beautiful book, and I think it's fantastic in terms of talking about dementia to young people and to our sons and our daughters. As you know, 1 in 3 of us will be affected by dementia. We're likely to know somebody living with dementia. So welcome, Tabitha.
Hello.
Hi, so lovely to see you.
Thank you, nice to meet you
too. I loved it. I absolutely loved reading the book. I loved the fact that it all rhymes.
Yeah, it has to rhyme.
There's something, yeah. There's something about children's books that rhyme, isn't there?
Yeah.
Easy to read to kids. Kids love them, and I love it. So would you be really happy to tell us about how the writing of the book came about for you? What's the story?
Yeah, sure. Me and my family, my 2 sisters, and my dad, we were aware that my mum definitely had some form of dementia, and it was really hard to get her to go for a test or anything like that. It got to the stage where, I mean, we told the children that when people get older, they sometimes lose their memory, as everyone does a little bit anyway, don't they? But it got to the stage where my mum started to hallucinate, and the GP got involved and prescribed her with a medication, which meant that she came round to our house at 5 o'clock every day, and we'd pop some of this risperidone, people might have heard of risperidone, into her coffee because she was in denial and wouldn't have taken the medication willingly. So my dad would give her a dose of risperidone in the morning, and I'd give her a dose in her coffee at 5 o'clock. So because of that, they were coming round every day at 5 o'clock, which had quite a big impact on us. It was lovely to give my dad that little bit of a break. He'd sit down, watch TV, and then I'd be with my mum, and the kids would be with my mum, and they were very close to my parents anyway, because we lived close to them and they'd helped out a lot with childcare over the years. So they were coming round a lot, but it became that I had to give the children a bit more information as to why my mum was acting like she was, because it wasn't just losing her memory, it was also a change of personality. She became a little bit verbally aggressive sometimes, not swearing, but just not her normal kind-natured self that she had been in the past. And all I kept saying to them was, Nanny can't remember, that, you know, there's parts of her brain that aren't working as well as they used to. And when she can't remember things, she gets worried, so she might become a bit stroppy, and little things just aren't working as they used to. So the part of the brain that makes you a nice person might not be working that day. And I remember sounding like a broken record because I kept saying it day in, day out. Nanny can't remember, and please remember to be kind because Nanny can't remember. And they were just so brilliant that they just kept, hi Nanny, how are you today? And she'd come round, and there was always some different saga going on that day, something she'd done, or but the kids were brilliant. And I think I used to write a lot of poetry at school. I used to enjoy writing poetry, always write silly poems in birthday cards and Christmas cards. And one day I just sat down and I just felt like I had to write a poem. I don't really know why I did it, but it was just probably a release of stress. So I just started writing. I wrote a few verses one day, and then the next day I finished it off. And I read it to the kids and I said, this poem is for you because you've been so amazing with Nanny. Yeah. And this is what our life's been like. And in the book, there's actually a lot of the pages are things that have actually happened, like the New Year's Eve page, Nanny dancing was actually in this room, and we had a disco light on, and we all had such a brilliant night, and Nanny was really, really happy because music makes people happy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's the thing about your book, is it's very positive, actually, isn't it? I think one of the things that people often say to me is when we talk about dementia, we talk about it in a very positive light. It's not always, of course it isn't. It's a real, it can be devastating. But I loved that you picked up on that in the book, that almost making new memories.
And it's important to say that another thing that I learned as well, and that was partly from going on a Dementia Friends training, was that even if the person that's living with dementia can't remember you, or they can't remember something they've done, they'll remember that something nice happened. So they don't necessarily remember that they've had someone come around for a cup of coffee, but when that person leaves, they'll be feeling happy that that person came, or whether they knew who you were or not.
Absolutely. So I wanted to just pick up on how we talk to children about dementia, because I mean, you've really lived this journey, haven't you, of your mum experiencing dementia and then having to have those conversations with your children. How young were your children when your mum was first diagnosed?
Well, she didn't get diagnosed until I think it was about 2016, 2017, I think, when the GP got involved, and he said, yes, she's definitely got dementia. He thought it was Alzheimer's at the time, but later on, when she actually had a scan, it showed that it was vascular dementia. But my kids were probably, when she first started becoming really forgetful, I think my youngest was about 5 or 6, and my eldest was maybe 8 or 9. So my youngest was very, very young. And it was hard for him because she was actually looking after him a lot, having him while I was at work. And then there came a time when he'd come home and say, oh, Nanny did this today, and he'd explain to me, and I'd be like, well, Nanny can't remember, it's just the way it is, and she loves you very much, and Granddad's there as well, and everything's fine, just reassuring him, really. But they were just really, really aware of it, and it was just meant talking about it on a daily basis, because you can't just say it once, because kids don't always remember everything that you've said. So it was just a daily conversation, and every day it was like, Nanny can't help what's happening to her, and she loves everyone very much, and and don't worry about it.
And were they, and did you feel that was the case, that they they just kind of accepted it as just the norm?
They that's the experience they had, and because it's such a slow process as well, it was a slow process, because they can't remember her not being forgetful, really, but they remember that she was a real hands-on nanny to them. If she had them, she would be 100% focused on them from the minute they walked in the door until they left. She would never put the telly on. She would make sure she had everything prepped for grandchildren, little corners, toys, pens, everything. And they, she was getting forgetful, but she was still brilliant, and being a great nan to them. It was just very, very slowly, and it was a real gradual process. Like, it was a couple of years later that we realised that Johnny couldn't be looked after by her anymore, but we still saw her so often that she didn't notice the impact, and the kids were fine with it as well. So we've just kept, you know, in contact, and they still see a lot of her. So yeah.
I mean, it sounds really positive, just how you've managed it, you know, with kids, and, you know, just how you talk about it, how you've introduced it and been really open about it right from the beginning. I think that that's really good for people to hear. It's a question that I often get is, you know, how do you bring it up? How do you talk about it? It's almost like it's the taboo, isn't it, in terms of something that we maybe don't talk about. And of course, children notice, don't they?
I did a book reading at the infant school that my children went to, and after I'd read to them a couple of days later, one of the teachers gave me loads and loads of cards that they'd made out of paper, to say thank you for coming and reading the book. And some of them had written in the book, in their cards, my nanny's getting a bit forgetful as well. Thank you for coming and talking about, you know, and it was really, really nice. But that, I think they talk about it a lot more in schools now, don't they? It's getting a lot better than it was.
Yeah, so, and I think, you know, things, you know, your book is, you know, what a great way to start that conversation, you know, to have this in schools, to be able to talk about it. And, you know, I had quite a similar experience. I went into it was a secondary school, and I was asked to go and talk to social care students there. And the same thing, you know, I did my talk about dementia, and what came back were all these questions, and people who'd noticed that their grandparents were forgetful. They, you know, they're genuinely really interested in asking about what they can do to help. I'm not sure that we do talk about it enough. I'd like to see more of it. And I, you know, as I said, I think your book is fabulous to do that for, you know, for younger kids to be able to start talking about the changes that they see. You know, as I said, when started, 1 in 3 of us are going to experience somebody in our lives with dementia. That is a lot, isn't it? And
a lot, and
a lot of children are going to have it in their lives, and to be able to, you know, to speak up and talk about how that is, because those changes can sometimes be difficult, can't they? You know, like you said, if somebody can't do childcare anymore, they don't play like they used to, or you know, they forget birthdays, and you know, those things, you know, could be hurtful if they didn't really understand.
I mean, there's also, I also try to explain to my children that it's okay to laugh about some things as well, because you have to, it can be a worry, and sometimes you do have to laugh. Like, you know, if Nanny put a cup in the, you know, or just did something random, like put something where it shouldn't be, or came round with underwear on top of her clothes, you know, that sort of thing. And my dad would sort of be smiling, and you have to just make it all okay. There's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing bad about it, you've got to keep smiling, and it's not as bad as a lot of people make out. It can be, you know, it's easy to work with.
And I think, you know, that's the thing, is your positivity in that, you know, that it's not all doom and gloom, and it's not, you know, the end of the world. It's difficult, of course, but you know, and that positivity, as I said, really comes through in your book. So one of the things that I was going to ask you to do, Tabitha, is to give us a reading, because it's such a beautiful book, and I'd definitely like to hear you read it. I think that would be a real treat.
Okay. I've got it on the right page.
I'm going to mute myself just in case my dogs bark, okay, because I don't want to spoil your beautiful reading. So over to you, Tabitha.
Okay, thank you. So it's called Nanny Can't Remember, and I also need to mention the lovely illustrations done by Sue Martin, whose mum also had dementia, and is sadly no longer with us, but she was very keen to work on the book because it was special to her, and I got introduced to her by somebody. So okay, so Nanny has always been special and sweet. She played fun games and gave us treats, but lately she has changed a bit. She gives less cuddles and gets in a muddle. Sometimes she seems sad or cross, but Mummy says it's not her fault. Are you on your holidays? No, Nanny, it's September. Mummy says we must be kind because Nanny can't remember. That's actually something that she always used to say. She always used to say to the kids, are you on your holidays? And it would just be any month that, you know, bless her. New Year's Eve was lots of fun. Nanny and Grandad decided to come. We danced to music from their time. Nanny seemed like she was on cloud 9, jumping and clapping and smiling. And so that memory for us will never go. That's my favourite. That's my favourite because that was that actually happened. Is it nearly summer? No, Nanny, it's December. Please remember to be kind because Nanny can't remember. Nanny and Grandad come for Sunday roast. It's the day they seem to like the most. They talk about their days gone by with a cheeky grin and a glint in the eye. It's nice to see them laugh like this. One day it's something we will miss. That was a regular Sunday thing as well. And they did always talk about the old days like we all do, don't we? Are we going home now, Bill? It sounds like she's in a temper. We must remember to be kind because Nanny can't remember. That one makes me laugh as well. Grandad finds it rather tough, but if you love someone, it is enough. You're there for them through thick and thin, with all the challenges that life can bring. Nanny's memory will soon get worse, but we never would offend her. Always promise to be kind when someone has dementia. That's it.
I love it. I really love it. The bit where you talk about is it time to go? Yes. It's such a common one in dementia, isn't it? Just not having an understanding of how much time has passed. So people often ask to go even when they've just got there.
Definitely. And it was quite often 5 minutes after she'd arrived, she'd want to go. But also if she just felt uncomfortable because she couldn't remember or she couldn't think of what to say, it was just wanting to get out really. But coming here was my dad's escape really, just to a bit of normality because he was going through such a lot at home. So we'd try and change the subject. Do you want another coffee, Mum? You know, come and have a coffee. Granddad's playing on the Xbox, you know. Yeah.
I love it. It's such a lovely book. And so how can people buy it? I want to know this. How do people buy it? Can they buy it on Amazon? Where do we get it from?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, and it's also available on eBay. It's available via Austin Macaulay Publishers, who published it for me. And I think you can get it in Waterstones still. I think that they've still got it in there. My local bookshop has still got it in stock. I actually went in there to give them some copies to sell, and he said, oh, we've already got that, and that was not long after it got published, so that was really nice. That's
got to feel good. What does it feel like to be an author?
It feels a bit strange. It's something that I thought I always, as I said, I love writing poems, and I still write poems now, but it never really clicked. But whereas with this, when I read the poems to my kids and they said, oh, Mummy, that's brilliant. And it was actually them that said, that sounds like it could be a children's book. So that's why I thought, right, okay, that'd be something good to do. So that's when I went hunting for a publisher that would take me on. And so Austin Macaulay did it, yeah.
And because it feels to me like this is the book. This is the book if you have dementia in your life and you have children in your life. This is the book to be reading your children. I just love it. I love the positivity in it. As you probably know, Memory Matters is all about, positivity, living well with dementia. And this just kind of shows how you can live with dementia in your life. And the illustrations, as you said, are absolutely beautiful. So this is my plug, is to say, go out and get this. Nanny Can't Remember. It's an absolutely fantastic book, and buy it for your grandchildren and your children and your children's school and your clubs and your scout clubs and everybody. Definitely should have it. I really do love it. It's such a beautiful book. Thank you ever so much, Tabitha.
And the profits go towards Alzheimer's research as well.
Fabulous. It's a double whammy, isn't it? You should definitely buy it. definitely buy it. Oh, fantastic. Really great. So what I want to do is just open the floor to, if there are any questions, now is your time to ask. So as you may know, the way that this is set up is Tabitha and I are talking on a Zoom, which is being streamed by the wonders of technology into Facebook. So if you can stick in the comments in Facebook, if you have any questions that you would like to ask Tabitha. I can see that we've got 11 people watching at the moment. Please do pop in the comments and I will ask live right now. If you're watching this as a replay, there's a couple of things that I want you to do. If you're watching as a live, it would be really nice if you can just write live in the comments, #live, and that helps us to count how many people are watching. If you're watching this as a replay, can you do the same thing? So #replay, still ask your questions. If you're watching on a replay, still ask questions, because I still have access to Tabitha, and I can certainly ask her those questions. Or she may well answer them herself in the comments. So any questions at all? I'm watching, and let's see what people say. There was just one thing that I wanted to mention right at the beginning of the interview. Tabitha was talking about how because her mum had to have risperidone, which is an antipsychotic, which is used sometimes for people living with dementia when they are distressed. And also mentioned about putting this in their coffee. And when this happens to people living with dementia, you would have to have a best interest meeting, which I'm sure Tabitha would have had with doctors and those looking after her. So just to say that I don't advise putting things in people's coffee, sorry. unless you've been through a best interest meeting to say that this is the right thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, we don't seem to have any questions, which is absolutely fine. As I said, if you do think of any questions, do pop them in the comments, and I will give them to Tabitha. And I hope you can see what a beautiful book that was, and thank you so much for reading it live to us, because that is really exceptionally special to have the joy of an author to ask questions to. As I said, Nanny Can't Remember, available in all the places where you would normally get a book. Just search for it, Tabatha Throup. Get it, and all the proceeds go to Alzheimer's UK, is that right?
Alzheimer's Research UK.
Alzheimer's Research. So yeah, as I said, an absolute double. Right, not only do you get an awesome book, but you're also supporting an amazing cause. As we know, we need more research in dementia, as more and more people will be experiencing it. So thank you so much, Tabitha. I can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been so lovely to talk to you.
It's all right. Thanks for having me.
Love your book. Take care. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks so much.